I'm going to share with you today 11 new ways to change or transform your dog's behaviour. So I love the fact there's 11 for a start. I jotted these down. These are all the methods and techniques we use within my behaviour training, which I call Canine Flow. And to be honest, I'd never really added them up before, so I jotted them down and they came to 11. And 11 is a powerful number. It's a master number in numerology. So I'm pretty pleased that there's 11 of these. So I'm just going to run through them for you. So the first one that we use within Canine Flow is professional canine hypnotherapy. Now this is something you can learn to do yourself, or you can of course ask one of my practitioners to come out for a consultation or go on one of their retreat days that they do, or they also do relaxed dog classes where they use professional canine hypnotherapy. So with canine hypnotherapy, it gets really in on a heart-based level. So when we use canine hypnotherapy within Canine Flow, we're not really working with the dog's mind. We don't need to. We find we can shift more by working with their heart and the rest of their body. And using hypnotherapy can allow them to go into a state of being where they are happy to release whatever trauma, whatever emotion is holding them back, whatever restriction they might have. And we see this when we do the work. We very often will run through the dog's body during hypnotherapy verbally and discuss the different body parts, for instance the tail, thank the tail for working so hard at communication and that kind of thing. And what we find is when we get to a certain part of the dog, they will start to release out. So it may be that they really reach out an arm, or it may be that they really reach out a leg. I've got a little fly come to see me. Perhaps I can hypnotise him away. So the dog, interestingly, has this inner knowing of what it needs to do to alleviate, to change and transform any limits within its physical body. And by using hypnotherapy, we get them into a state of being that they feel safe enough to do this. So I do have some other videos on YouTube of me actually doing hypnotherapy and working with the dog, and it's absolutely fascinating. It really is one of the key ways that we will work with Canine Flow. We call it professional canine hypnotherapy because really canine hypnotherapy, like all the things that I will mention in these 11 ways, have to be done with an understanding of behaviour. And in fact, I think I've got that written down as one of the ways, because it really is so key. You cannot just put a dog under hypnosis. You cannot just know how to do actual hypnosis or actual hypnotherapy and use that and try and influence the dog's mind or try and ask them the things that you believe the dog should be doing. It doesn't actually work like that. To make lasting transformations with canine hypnotherapy, we would want to be looking at things from the dog's point of view, rather than adding in our shoulds and shouldn'ts and try and in some way influence or control their mind to get them to do what we want them to do. So in that way, it is 100% not even hypnosis, because we're not getting the dog into a state where we ask them to do what we think is correct. We're actually working with them on an inner, more subtle level. It's very safe. In fact, it's veterinary backed, the professional canine hypnotherapy that we do. So that's one of the ways. So the second way that I noted down is our spiral energy technique, which I've actually got a full Facebook Live about spirals and the why we work with spirals on my Facebook page. So I won't discuss that in a great deal, but it's linked to the Fibonacci spiral and the fact that the numbers, the mathematical numbers with the Fibonacci spiral, which Google if you've never seen it before. It's a sacred geometry shape, and the mathematical numbers are actually linked to how our heart expands. So our heart has been shown to be at a certain vibration or resonance which matches mathematically the numbers of the Fibonacci spiral when we are in coherence. So when we're in coherence, when we're in expansion, we start to have a resonance or a vibration that matches, the resonance of the Fibonacci spiral, which is just amazing. So we pull all that wonderful energy into the spiral energy technique that we use with our dogs. And the great thing about that is that you don't have to do it on the dog. You can do it in the aura of the dog, away from the dog. And you can even work on the owner with this as well, so you don't actually need any actual skin touching. It can be done in the aura around the animal. So it's, again, very safe, very easy for them to accept. So relaxed dog meditations, you'll find another video here. This is number 3. You'll find another video here on my YouTube channel about how to meditate to transform your dog's behaviour. So I do recommend that you watch that one. They are extremely powerful for reconnecting, and definitely should be used if you want to make change in your dog's behaviour. So something called the AWE method, which stands for awareness, wonder and energize. And this is a method that I've developed with my students, and we work with owners with this method. So it's you that wants to make the change to your dog's behaviour. So there's an element where you have to come into play as well. And this method is very, very easy to use. It's very simple to teach and to understand. And in essence, in a nutshell, we bring awareness of what might need to change. We use our visualization and our ability, our human wonderful ability to wonder, and to put that wonder of what it would be if it was the other way, or if it was a different way, or what other possibilities are around. When we hit the possibility that we want, visualizing, then we energize that. So we really bring energy up our spine. So that's where that's what we do with the AWE method. So we use that with the owner as well. So we also have something called the give and take method, which is like a training technique, really. This is the closest you're going to get to traditional dog training within Canine Flow. So what we do is we encourage the dog, when it feels a supercharge of emotion, a supercharge of energy that would then drive it to behave in a certain way, we encourage the dog to always feel safe to come and give us that energy. So the dog is, in essence, feeling an emotion, and it's like a surge, it's like a charge that comes up in them. And when we learn to observe our dogs, we can utilize that, and we can have a command that we say, or a word that we say, which might be give or take, and the dog will know that, and the dog will turn and it will give you its energy. So it will ground its emotional energy, and it will express its emotional energy onto you as the owner, rather than expressing that emotional energy to whatever it was about to do, which could be as simple as chewing your shoe, could be that they were going to be aggressive towards another dog. To the dog, what they're about to do is not really what they're considering. How they feel, and that surge and that charge of energy information, but emotional information that's driving them to do something, that's what's key for them. That's what they're feeling. So we can help them to feel very, very safe, and we have a special way of training them to turn at that point, which does involve us learning to observe them, which actually is another one of the 11, learning to observe your dog. So you could use, and many of us do, use observations on their physical body, starting to understand calming signals. Many people already know calming signals, some people don't, because actually you don't need to know anything about traditional dog training to come and learn about Canine Flow. This is more of a life method. You know, we don't have to know about dogs even particularly to begin with when we learn about Canine Flow, because what we will do is transform the owner's life, the practitioner begins to change, and the dog begins to change. So it isn't about knowing all the technical terms of dog training at all. So observation, really, really key. I'm just reading them all down. Intention is another one. So we learn in Canine Flow how to harness and focus the intention to what we want, rather than focusing on what we don't want. We also use intention because it is an incredibly powerful tool within things like hypnotherapy or the spiral work. So we will intend in what we actually want the dog to feel, and what we actually want to create for the owner and for the dog, and even for ourselves as the person doing the work. So intention and the power of intention is so, so key. There's been huge books, or big thick books, written by people just on intention, just one of these 11 things, and it is super transformational. So we learn to harness that and the power of that within Canine Flow. So we also will find that we use a little bit of, or a lot really, of communication techniques. Now sometimes that does happen on a telepathic level. So if you're already someone who's capable of doing telepathy, then you will find that this increases when you do canine flow. If you've never done it before, you may find that you can start to do this. However, what we realise when we're doing this is that this is a whole body thing. Again, we're not actually being telepathic with the mind. We're being telepathic within time and space. So we've got access to all the things that have ever happened to the dog and potentially all the possibilities that could do. We go into time and space when we're doing the kind of communication that we get within canine flow. So again, it isn't about harnessing what the dog's mind is doing. We've got enough behaviour techniques that harness and work with neuropathways, dog psychology, all to do with the dog's mind. We don't need any more, which is why I've created this, because this is needed. We're not working in this way with dogs in any other behaviour and training method. There's one that comes particularly close but still focuses a lot on the mind. So for me, this is much, much needed, this heart-based way of working with dogs. So what have I missed? I have only missed, actually, aroma flow. So one of our practitioners, who's been a practitioner for 2 years now, is also fully qualified and able to teach you how to use essential oils with dogs for their behaviour. So we're not using them for well-being at all. Nothing that we do in canine flow is aimed at well-being. You might find that it improves your dog's well-being, because behaviour and well-being are so linked. Of course, well-being will influence how the dog feels, and within canine flow we're looking at how the dog feels as the driver of its behaviour, not what it's thinking. So ailments may start to improve just because you're working with those feelings, but that's not the aim. So our practitioner within Canine Flow will run through a short course. So it's not an essential oil course. It's not going to train you to use every essential oil with dogs for behaviour. It's a short course to give you an understanding of why we might use essential oils and when they're appropriate within Canine Flow. And we have 8 that we use and that we teach you about within the Canine Flow. So you will learn about that as well. So the last one, I hope it's the last one, can't see that I've missed one off, is essentially, we call them reconnection techniques. And these reconnection techniques are about reconnecting the owner to source, really, or peace, or the universe, or whatever you might want to call it. You might even want to call it God, but it's all about reconnecting. And it's also more than that, because it's reconnecting to your inner self. So parts of you that you might have ignored, parts of you that you might have felt separated from, parts of you that you might have suppressed. We start to use these reconnection techniques within Canine Flow for the owner. Now what we find is the dog will automatically reconnect when we give it the time and space to do so. They don't limit themselves in the same way that people and owners tend to. What you'll also find is if you use these techniques within dog behaviour and you really start to use them as a practitioner, you will start to, I'm going to use the word recover, parts of you as well, and find parts of you that this may have happened to you in some way. So in that way, what we find is when we use Canine Flow, you change as a practitioner, and the owner will change, and the dog will change, and what this does is it immediately puts out a different vibration into the whole of the whole of planet. You're contributing to the whole of planet Earth changing and making a difference, really, to all of humanity. So they are the 11 ways that we transform behaviour, and what we find is that you can sometimes pick and choose bits and you can use some of them, but to really have a whole understanding of them is key to making complete transformation in the dog's behaviour and also bringing success and happiness to your life at the same time as changing the dog's behaviour. At the moment I'm running retreats. I've got America coming up in October this year, which is 2018. I've got UK coming up in September, which is already half full. I've got Croatia coming up, which is possibly going to be November, and I've got North Cyprus as well. So head to my website, which is just canineflow.com, and you can come on a retreat with your dog, of course, and you work together with your dog on these retreats. And if you want to go on to become a practitioner, you have to do at least 3 retreats. Anyway, we can talk more about that if you want to. But in the meantime, I hope it gives you an idea of the different ways that we work with Canine Flow and the different unique methods that over the 3 years I've done this have completely transformed the lives and the behaviours of the dogs and the people that I've worked with and that my practitioners have worked with as well. Thank you for listening.